Loktargar friends, hey everybody, it's Jason Blah here, and it's time for another work mode workout, and today is my dynamic effort press day. And I'm probably not even going to talk all the way through this workout. As we get near the end, I will most likely just throw some music in and let you guys watch for those who want to see what I did today. But it gets to a point where some of these higher volume workouts, the actual work sets, not even counting warm-ups, take so long that I don't even want to talk for 15-20 minutes straight. So up front, I did 12 doubles on the floor press, working with approximately 80%. Now, a lot of people will say, Jason, why are you going so heavy for compensatory acceleration? Because I'm doing everything raw and paused, and I'm working with percentages that are the percentages of these actual lifts, not necessarily my bench press, right? Because we can bench press more than most of us can floor press, unless your range of motion is severely limited due to not a lot of back thickness. So for me, that's a good range for getting just heavy enough to where I know that with compensatory acceleration, we're hitting the upper threshold fibers on the first rep. Plus, it's moderately heavy work for high volumes of training, because I'm not always a fan of going ultra light on this sort of training. Now, when a person gets really, really strong, it's a little bit different. And people need to remember, number one, a lot of people who do dynamic work with raw lifts or even their bands and chains or whatever, they're oftentimes calculating off of their equipped maxes, meaning they might be using their bench press shirt, their competition max in a bench shirt to get their percentages, or their squat based upon what they wear in a multiply squat suit in comp. So those things get a little bit different when they start hitting things like 50% of their max. It's a little bit different of an animal. And I think there's a big difference too if I'm doing these from raw pause lifts. So we're getting the benefits of compensatory acceleration, but we are working with just heavy enough of a weight that even with a double, with fast enough bar speed, we're going to hit upper threshold fibers. So it is the same as getting within the last few reps of failure in terms of muscle fiber recruitment. That's what we want. And clearly it's working. I'm getting stronger, right? I'm getting stronger on my big lifts. My 4 big barbell lifts, I'm getting stronger week to week, right? And we're seeing it go up as a result of doing this. And this is my primary work, right? This is my primary strength building, because a lot of times the max effort lifts, we are getting some training effect from titrating up to a max. I don't want people to think there is no training effect from that, because there is, but let's be realistic here. Most of my hypertrophy and training effect is coming from these dynamic effort days. So clearly they're working. I'm not overtraining. I'm getting stronger, and I seem to be recompositioning to some extent. All right, people have noticed that I do look bigger. Well, the scale's not really going up. So if I'm getting bigger or looking bigger, I'm clearly recomping. And it's a slow process. People need to remember that's going to be a slow process. That stuff takes time. Takes time, but the progress is coming along. It's working. You guys will also notice I loaded microplates up a little heavier on these today. Right, and they felt good. I feel like going in just a hair on the width so that I'm more of a medium grip. I feel like I'm stronger in that. And we got to be realistic here when it comes to building muscle and building strength. If you have a hand or a foot position that increases range of motion, but yet you are stronger on, that's the best of both worlds. You're going to build the most muscle and strength at that position. Right? A lot of times we do hand positions or foot positions to reduce range of motion, because in theory, the reduced range of motion in many instances should allow us to lift more weight. But if we have a situation to where increasing the range of motion by even a ½ inch or an inch on an exercise by adjusting something lets you lift more weight, well, you're moving a heavier weight a further distance. Well, that's going to have a larger training response. That's going to have a larger hypertrophic effect. And even if you want to get wider, like something like the press like this for pressing, if I'm stronger in a medium grip than I am the wide grip, then I need to work with that medium grip and slowly keep working it out until I'm stronger at the wide grip. So realistically, you really need to work at the grips that you are strongest at, and then see over time if you can bring it out a little further and continue to build that strength, if the goal is to trim range of motion in the hopes of increasing strength. The problem we have, though, is that longer arm guys like me, because I have long arms, right? My arms are long relative to my height. I have longer arms than average for a guy my height. That was one reason why years ago, before I actually said what I really was in terms of height, and before all this silly nonsense came out of people claiming that I'm shorter than that, everyone thought I was really tall. People in the comment section, when I started mentioning my actual real height, they were like, wow, I thought you were 5-6 inches taller than that. When I said, hey, I'm 5'9", a lot of people thought I was over 6 foot, and it has to do with my upper body proportions because I have long arms. If you didn't see my legs, if you just saw my upper body, people would assume that. They would assume that I'm taller because of the size of my rib cage and the length of my arms, right? But I have the stumpy legs for my height. So my legs are actually short for my height. My arms are disproportionately long for my height. So what does that mean for bench pressing? Guys with longer arms, we can't really do the ultra wide benching. It tears your shoulders up. And so we just have to work harder. We have to work harder at bench pressing. We have to work harder at all pressing. We have to do things like focus on our triceps more, right? Now, our arms will never look as big, even if they are big, simply because, again, we have those longer arms, but we also have more room to fill out size. So because we have longer arms, yes, we're at a disadvantage, but that also gives us more space to add meat on our triceps in theory. So we can use that to our advantage. You know, you have to turn every disadvantage into an advantage, or look at it and say, okay, what can I do to maximize on this? What are my strong points out of this disadvantage? Capitalize on it. You know, in that case, put as much meat as you can on your triceps. You know, if you have longer arms that you're going to force to be a tricep dominant presser and bench presser, right? You know that. Put as much meat as possible on your triceps, which is the name of the game for me now. You know, if I want to get my bench back to where it was, because I obviously had, when I was benching over 400 when I was younger, people have seen pictures, my triceps were bigger. They're bigger than they are now. So I'm going to have to keep beefing them up. I'll have to keep beefing them up. And it's one of the reasons I'm doing JM presses, which probably, again, needs its own video. So press today. I worked with 175 for my dynamic work. I felt like by the 9th and 10th double of this, instead of getting to 12, I felt like I was running out of steam. And it does seem like that happens sometimes when I do the floor press and then the press back to back. On dynamic days, it seems like I do run out of steam sooner, but I'm using a heavy enough weight at this point that I feel like, you know, that 10 sets gave me the desired training effect. I felt like everything was lit up pretty good. I felt a large amount of fatigue in my upper chest, my entire shoulder girdle, my front delts, side delts, and even started to feel it in my traps near the end, which again, people need to remember the overhead press is a trap exercise, right? It actually beats, if you go look at even some of the EMG data, it beats deadlifting and stuff for your traps. I mean, if you want big traps, you want big shoulders in general, standing barbell press should be one of your primary exercises. In addition to just being an all-around badass functional exercise, I mean, it will thicken up your entire shoulder girdle. It really will. It'll build up the long head of your triceps, you know, and that kind of comes to the point of one of the reasons I'm really focusing on the JM press. And again, it needs its own video. It has to do with the fact that, yeah, if I had more long head, it would probably help with my press. Hell, it might even help hypothetically with my chin up, which are important exercises for me, but I'm strong on my press right now. My bench needs more work than my press does. And so therefore, the heads of the tricep that really contribute most of the bench press, they're visibly lagging for me, right? They're visibly lagging. So if they're visibly lagging and I can see the performance gap and I know that they're the weak link in my bench, I need to just hammer on them. I need to make them a super high priority, right? They need to be a high priority. So for me, erectors, triceps, things like that are where I'm putting all my extra focus. You know, all of my extra work that I'm doing has to do with hitting spinal erectors, thoracic erectors, triceps, rear delts, all that stuff. Those are my weak links and all my big lifts. And at the end of the day, how do you get your big lifts up? Fix your weak links. And if you fix your weak links and you get stronger at the big lifts, then everything grows, right? If you get stronger at the big five, which this is one of the big five, here we go, weighted chins, then everything's going to grow. Now, some people will point out, they've noticed occasionally someone will say, hey, when you do chins, you're not going to a dead hang. Yeah, look at my back, I am. That's my old injury on my left side. It's very difficult for me to extend my left elbow further than that. If you'll notice, my scapular actually coming apart at the bottom. So these are a dead hang for me, but I don't have enough weight to actually pull my arm straight. My body weight plus that plate isn't really enough for me to get the stretch I need on my left arm to actually pull it all the way out. And it has to do with scar tissue buildup and a little bit of loss of mobility in that bicep in that position from the old injury and surgery. So it is what it is. I only have the mobility there that I have. And so people, if people wanted to joke and say, well, you could do mobility work, look at me hanging. Look at me hanging there. Do you really think there's any mobility work that's going to put a deeper stretch on that muscle than that? Best of luck. I mean, guys, we're talking about like 250 pounds hanging there. That's the mobility I have, guys. It is what it is. We have to work around injuries, you know, and it's not like it's for no reason. It's due to an injury. Right, it's due to a previous injury and surgery and everything else. So I have a little bit of shortening of that muscle of the bicep on the left side, and there's not a lot I can do about it. I seems like I can get the better range of motion on the overhand grip pull up. It seems like I can. So I do what I can. I like these chin ups though, and I feel like again, it's a great exercise. I can only handle so much chin-up volume, though, because of that left side, the tendonitis that I get. But I feel like I'm at a sweet spot on it right now. It's not bothering me. It's not hurting. I'm slowly getting stronger at chin-ups. Of course, I'm alternating a bit with pull-ups for the heavier days to keep it from getting too inflamed. But if I can do it, and I got 7 reps on this last set, 7 reps. So that's 1 more rep than last week. So if I can do it, then I should do it, at least within the volume that I can handle, without the tendonitis flaring up, right? So I'm going to do it within the limits that my body will allow. And I feel like with my current diet and balance of my training and everything else, I do feel like tendon inflammation is relatively under control. And if I can keep it under control, then we're going to keep working with it. But that's a whole different topic, right? As far as ketogenic diets and inflammation, there's legitimate research out on that now. The anti-inflammatory diet, right? It's an anti-inflammatory diet. And it seems counterintuitive at first until you look at the research. And then we finish up with as many sets of JM presses as I could handle. We went up on the weight slightly, went up to 105. Like I said, the goal is to get to 135, a full plate per side for sets of 10. Then I know that my triceps will no longer be the weak link in my bench. So that's the benchmark we're reaching for, and we're working towards it. We're working towards it pretty good at this point because these sets of 10 weren't bad. So I'm just going to keep doing these. I'll film the rest of them. You guys can watch them. I'll maybe throw some music in. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.